The kitchen was quiet. The way kitchens are quiet before something happens in them that changes everything. Kalila had worked in this house for 5 years. 5 years of arriving before the sun was fully up and leaving after it had gone down. 5 years of keeping her head low, her voice lower, and her feelings completely to herself. Today was her last day. She did not know it yet, but the kitchen did. Miss Yoon walked into the kitchen the way she always walked into rooms she owned. Not loudly, not dramatically, just with the specific energy of a woman who had already decided, before she entered, that something was wrong. Her eyes moved across the counter, across Kalila standing at it, across the counter again. "This is not how I asked for it," she said. Kalila looked at the counter, at the arrangement of things she had spent the last 40 minutes preparing exactly as she had been instructed. Everything was where it was supposed to be. Everything was how it was supposed to be. She said nothing. Miss Yoon stepped closer. "Are you ignoring me?" "No, ma'am," Kalila said. Her voice was level. Her face was level. Everything about her was level, the way she had spent 5 years training it to be. "Then explain to me why this looks nothing like what I asked for." Kalila looked at her, at the woman standing 2 feet away from her with her arms folded and her chin slightly raised, the posture of someone who was very used to being the one who got to decide what was true. "Because it does," Kalila said. Quietly, simply, not rudely, just truthfully. Miss Yoon's eyes narrowed. She stepped closer, close enough now that Kalila could smell her perfume, which was expensive and light and entirely wrong for a woman with her temperament. "You know what you are," Miss Yoon said. Her voice dropped to the register she used when she wanted things to land properly. Controlled. The voice of a woman who had said things like this so many times they no longer required any effort from her. "You are staff. You are here because I allow it. You wake up in the morning and you come to this house because I permit you to. You stand in my kitchen, touching my things, breathing my air, and you have the nerve to tell me that I am wrong." She looked at Kalila from her head to her feet, slowly, taking her time, the particular look of someone who wanted every second of it to land somewhere it would stay. "You are nothing in this house. You have always been nothing. And the sooner you accept what you are and what you are not, the easier your life in here will be." She smiled, small, the smile of a woman who had never once, in all her life, been given a reason to stop. Kalila stood and absorbed every word, the way she had absorbed everything for 5 years, the way she had trained herself to stand still inside a storm and let it pass over her and keep her face completely blank while it did. She had gotten very good at this. Dangerously good, the kind of good that means the thing you are containing has been building for a very long time. She opened her mouth to respond. Miss Yoon's hand came up. Kalila caught her wrist. She held it, firmly, and she looked at her directly, eye to eye, without blinking. "Do not try that," she said. Her voice was quiet, completely certain. The voice of a woman who had already made up her mind. "I am telling you clearly. Do not try that." Miss Yoon looked at her wrist. Kalila's hand wrapped around it. Then back at Kalila's face. Something moved through her eyes in that moment. Surprise. The specific disorientation of a woman who had never, not once in 5 years, been answered back. Who had walked into this kitchen 100 times and handed out whatever she felt like handing out and had never once met anything but silence and lowered eyes. She pulled her wrist away, straightened herself, and tried it again. This time it met Kalila's face. The sound of it filled the kitchen. Kalila's head turned with the force of it. She stood very still for exactly 1 second. The kind of stillness that is not calm at all but is the opposite of calm, the second before something that cannot be taken back. Then she turned back. She looked at Miss Yoon, at the expression on her face. The familiar satisfaction of a woman who had always been allowed to do this, who had done it to women before Kalila and would do it to women after her if nothing changed right now. And Kalila slapped her back. Clean, firm, completely without hesitation. The sound was different that time, fuller. The sound of something that had been waiting for a very long time to be said in a language that could not be misunderstood. Miss Yoon's hand went to her face. Her eyes went through something that had no name for it yet. Shock, disbelief, the specific feeling of a reality that has just shifted without asking your permission. Because in 5 years, not one single person inside this house had ever given it back to her. Kalila looked at her for one long moment. Then she walked to the kitchen door, turned the lock, and turned back around. And for the first time in 5 years, she spoke. For 5 years I have been in this house. 5 years of arriving early and staying late. 5 years of doing everything that was asked of me and everything that was not asked but still needed doing. 5 years of keeping my mouth shut while you said things to me that you would never say to someone you actually saw as a person. She looked at her. I have been slapped in this house. Not today for the first time. I have been spoken to in ways I will not repeat, because saying them again gives them more respect than they deserve. I have watched you do this to every person who worked inside these walls. And I watched them leave, one after another, because there was nothing left in them to absorb. She reached behind herself and untied the apron, folded it, set it on the counter. I made a decision the last time you did this. I told myself that when it happened again I would leave. And I am keeping that promise to myself. She reached up and unpinned the uniform collar, stepped out of the outer layer of it, set it beside the apron on the counter. She was standing now in her own clothes, her own skin, herself completely, for the first time in a very long time. I resign, she said confidently. Then she unlocked the kitchen door, opened it and walked out. She was almost at the front door when Miss Yoon's voice came from behind her, sharp, recovered now, the authority fully back in it. Stop her. The bodyguards standing near the entrance looked at each other, then at Miss Yoon at the end of the hallway, then at Kalila, who had stopped walking and was now standing completely still with her bag on her shoulder and her face completely composed. They moved. 2 of them stepped in front of the door. 2 more came from behind her. Kalila looked at the 2 blocking the door. Then she looked at the 2 behind her. Then she turned and looked at Miss Yoon, who was walking down the hallway now with the slow walk of a woman who had just remembered exactly what she controlled. They brought her to a room off the east corridor that was used for storage. They sat her in a chair. The door was locked from the outside, and then Miss Yoon came in and closed it behind herself. She looked at Kalila sitting in the chair, looked at her for a long moment. The satisfaction from the kitchen was gone. What was on her face now was something colder. You thought you could just walk out of here, after what you did, after you put your hand on my face. Kalila looked at her. She said nothing. You are going to sit in this room until I decide what happens next. Do you understand me? Kalila said nothing. Miss Yoon stepped forward, her hand coming up, her face set with the intention of doing exactly what she had done in the kitchen, because that was what she did when she was not being obeyed and when she needed to remind someone of the order of things. The door opened. Kang Seo-jun stood in the doorway. He was not a tall man, but he had a quality that made rooms feel smaller when he entered them. His eyes moved across everything in about 2 seconds. His wife, Kalila, in the chair. The rope that someone had thought to tie around her wrists at some point in the last few minutes. All of it registered, processed, decided upon. His face settled into something very still and very cold. Untie her. Nobody moved. Now, they untied her. He looked at his wife. What is the meaning of this? It was not a question. It was a sentence with the shape of a question and the weight of something else entirely. His wife straightened. She slapped me. She put her hand on my face in my own kitchen, and you are standing here asking me to explain myself to you. Why is she tied to a chair in a locked room? He asked. Because she. Answer the question I asked. His wife's jaw tightened. Her eyes went to Kalila in the chair, then back to her husband. The silence in the room had a specific texture to it, the kind that builds in spaces where 2 people know each other well enough to have this conversation without words. He turned and looked at Kalila. I am sorry. His voice was direct and completely genuine in a way that surprised her. For what happened here today. This is not how this house operates. It is not what I allow. Kalila stood up from the chair. She picked up her bag from where they had placed it on the floor. She looked at him steadily. Talk to your wife, she said simply. I am already leaving. She walked to the door. He stepped to one side. She walked through it and did not look back. He closed the door, turned to his wife. The room was very quiet. How many times have I spoken to you about this? His wife's eyes went red at the edges. You are defending her. A maid slapped me in my own house and you are standing here defending her. I am asking you a question. You are taking her side. Her voice cracked. Your own wife. You are standing here taking a maid's side over your own wife. I am not taking sides, he interrupted her. I am telling you that what you did is not acceptable. It has never been acceptable. And because of it, she is gone. Good, his wife said. Her chin came up. Let her go. She was the best person in this house, he said quietly. Something flickered behind his wife's eyes. Something that moved through fast and then was gone. So you feel something for her. Her voice broke open now. You talk to the workers. You care about the workers. You defend the workers. How am I supposed to trust that there is nothing between you and a woman like that? He crossed the room in 4 steps and put his arms around her. She pushed against him. Then she stopped pushing. I love you. His voice was quiet, close against her hair. You know I love you, but love does not mean I stand beside you when you do wrong. It means I tell you the truth even when it is hard to hear. She was crying now. The real kind, the kind that comes from the chest and not the eyes. Stop doing this to people, he said. Not for me. For yourself. Because the person you become in those moments is not who you are. He held her. She cried. And said nothing. Kalila sat on the edge of her bed. Her own bed. Her own room. Her own quiet. The uniform was gone. The apron was gone. 5 years. Folded up neatly and left on a kitchen counter in a house she would never walk back into. She sat with all of it for a long time. Not thinking exactly. Just sitting. Letting the day settle around her like something that had already happened and could not be undone and did not need to be. Then something shifted. Not happiness. Not yet. Something under happiness. Something that felt the way a window feels when it has been shut for so long the room has forgotten there is air on the other side of it, and then someone opens it. She laughed. Small. To herself. In the empty room, to nobody at all, to the version of herself that had sat in that kitchen for 5 years and held everything inside. I actually did it. She lay back on the bed and looked at the ceiling. Tomorrow she would figure out what came next. Tomorrow she would sit with the notebook she kept in her nightstand and she would think clearly about money and work and the practical weight of a life that had just changed shape. There was a lot to think about and she knew that and she did not push it away. But tonight she had done what most people spend years wishing they had done and never do. And that, for tonight, was enough. She woke early. The notebook on her nightstand was open, filled with her own handwriting from the night before. Pages of it. Numbers and questions and plans and lists. The evidence of a mind that had kept working long after she closed her eyes. She sat up and picked it up and looked at it and felt something steady and useful move through her chest. She was already thinking about where to send her documents, which contacts she had kept from before that house, what she could do in the next 30 days that would cost her the least and build the most. Then footsteps. Multiple. Outside her door. She went very still. The footsteps stopped. A knock. She said nothing. Another knock. Still nothing. 3 more, slow and deliberate. Who is there? A pause. Kong Seo Jun. She sat very still for a moment. Then she stood, crossed to the mirror, looked at herself, took one breath, the kind that settles things. Am I in trouble? She called through the door. No, he said. She opened it. He stood in the hallway without any of the things that usually surrounded him. No bodyguards at his shoulder. No house behind him to remind her what he owned. Just a man at her door in the morning with his hands in his coat pockets. She stepped back. He came in. He sat where she pointed and looked around the small room without any expression she could read. I came here to correct what happened yesterday. Properly. For everything that happened in that house. For what she did. For how long it was allowed to continue before it became what it became. Kalila looked at him. But I also have to ask. Because I am a man who listens to both sides before I decide anything. You slapped her back. I did, Kalila said. No apology. No performance. Just the plain fact of it. What gave you the right to do that? She looked at him for a long moment. Long enough that another person might have filled the silence. He did not. He just waited. Since the first week I worked in that house, she began. And she told him. All of it. The first time, which was 3 weeks into the job and which she had told herself was an accident and a misunderstanding because she needed the work and the money and she was new and she did not want to make trouble. The second time, which was 2 months in, which she could not explain away. The third. The fourth. The incidents she had witnessed, the ones she had heard through walls, the ones she had been told about by the 3 women who had worked there before her and who had left with the same look on their faces, a look she recognized now because she had worn it herself every single morning for 5 years. She told him about the words, the specific ones. She did not soften them or reach for gentler versions. She said them exactly as they had been said to her, in the order they had been said, with the tone they had been delivered in. She told him about the employee who had broken down in the laundry room and not come back. About the one who had filed something with someone and then quietly disappeared from the process. About the one who had stayed longest before her, a woman named Arjun, who had said on her last day that some houses were built to break you and the only thing you could do was leave before they finished the job. He listened to every word. He did not shift in his seat. He did not look away. He did not interrupt once. When she finished, the room was very quiet. His eyes had gone somewhere very cold and very still, somewhere she had not seen them go before. It was not anger exactly. It was the look of a man who is deciding something and has almost finished deciding it. I made my decision a long time ago, Kalila said, that when it happened again I would leave, but I would not leave without giving it back once. So she would know that it was a choice, every time not to. He looked at her. Then he said, I want you to come and work at my office, not the house. My office. Different environment, different terms, better everything. No, she said. He looked at her. Why? She looked at him. Something moved behind her eyes. A decision that had already been made, that was fully formed, that she was choosing whether to share. She stood. She crossed the room to where he was sitting. She leaned down and brought her voice close to his ear. Come back tomorrow evening. Alone. No driver, no bodyguards. Park at least 5 feet from this building or do not bring the car at all. Tell nobody you are coming. Not anyone. She straightened up. He looked at her. Something moved through his face that he did not completely cover. That sounds like the setup for a rival's move. I will not say anything more than that, she said. Thank you for coming. She was already at the door. He stood, looked at her standing there, her hand on the door frame, completely composed, completely certain. Are you asking me to leave? No. But I don't think there is anything left to discuss right now. He looked at her one more time, then left. The moment she heard the car pull away from the building, she crossed to the window and checked. Gone. She closed the curtain, and then she laughed, properly. From somewhere deep, the kind of laugh that moves through the whole body. She covered her mouth with her hand and moved around the small room with it because it needed somewhere to go. Because Kang Seo-jun, whose name alone made grown men lower their voices and move out of the way, had just sat in her chair, in her small room with its one window and its open notebook, and had listened to every single word she said. She shook her head. There are so many benefits, she said to herself, still moving, still laughing, to having absolutely nothing left to lose. He got home. His wife was already in bed. The house was quiet in the way it was quiet most evenings. The specific quiet of a large house with staff who knew when to disappear. He went to his office, sat in the dark, did not turn on the light. The instructions she had given were running through his mind the way things run through his mind when they matter, which is on a loop, which is without stopping. Park 5 feet away. Tell nobody. Come alone. He had been in this business for 19 years. He had heard every version of the setup, had seen every version of the trap. He was a man who had survived things that should not have been survivable, and he had done it by trusting the small voice inside him that knew, before his mind caught up, when something was wrong. That voice was not saying anything right now, which was either a good sign or the best trap he had ever walked into. He sat with it. Then he went to bed. He lay in the dark with his eyes open. His wife stirred beside him after a while, rolled toward him. You have been like this since yesterday. Her voice thick with sleep. What is it? He looked at the ceiling. Business. Go back to sleep. She did. He did not. He lay there until the room started to go gray at the edges, and then he got up and made coffee and sat with it at the kitchen table, the same kitchen, the same counter, and thought about a woman he had employed for 5 years without knowing anything real about her at all. He went back to her the next evening. No car. He took a taxi, which he had not done in years. He sat in the back and looked at the city moving past the window and felt the specific discomfort of being ordinary, of being a man without a driver and a convoy, of being nobody in particular. She opened the door when he knocked and let him in without saying anything. Made tea without asking him if he wanted it and set it in front of him, which was either a habit from 5 years of working in his house or a statement, and he was not sure which. He sat across from her. What is the real reason? Why you will not work at the office? Tell me what this is actually about. Kalila looked at him for a moment. I do not have a long explanation, but I have a request. He waited. Buy 5 wireless CCTV cameras, she said. Small ones. Ones that are not easily spotted. Install one in the main parlor. One where several of the household staff spend most of their time. 2 near the existing security camera setup at the house. And one in the back hallway, the one that leads out toward the rear entrance and the garden. He looked at her steadily. Leave them running for 5 days. Do not look at any of the recordings until all 5 days are finished. And before you look at the new cameras, pull the existing house CCTV first and go through that. He looked at her for a long moment. Why would I do this in my own house? I know my house. I know everyone in it. These are people I have trusted for years. You will find the reason, she said simply. He looked at her. She was not performing anything. There was no urgency in her voice, no drama, no attempt to convince him of anything. She was sitting across from him with her tea and stating something she already knew to be true, and leaving the choice entirely with him. And one more thing. She looked at him directly. No matter what you see in those recordings, do not react immediately. Whatever it is, whatever you feel, wait. He was quiet for a moment. And if I choose not to do this? He asked. Then, it would be better for both of us not to meet again. He stood. He looked at her one more time. Then he walked out, took the taxi back, and sat in the back the entire ride without saying a word. Then he made his decision. He did it himself. Late at night, moving through his own house like he was learning the layout for the first time, checking every corner and corridor that the existing cameras covered and every shadow they did not reach. He knew exactly where to put the 5 new ones. He had been in enough rooms in enough buildings to know what a blind spot looked like. He installed them in under an hour and then went to bed as if nothing had changed. 5 days. He had never been good at waiting. But he waited. On the 5th evening he went to his home office, closed the door, sat at his computer, and started with the existing house footage. He moved through it methodically, day by day, camera by camera. It looked normal. His wife moving through the house in the morning. Staff doing what they were paid to do. The rhythms of a household that ran smoothly. He exhaled and leaned back in his chair. Maybe he had been wrong. Then he switched to the cameras he had installed himself. He started with the parlor. His wife was in the room, standing over one of the junior household staff, a young woman who had been there for about 4 months, shouting at her. Not the irritated correction of an employer to an employee. Full, sustained shouting over something small, something that did not come close to deserving any of what was being given to it. The young woman stood with her hands at her sides and her face absolutely still and absorbed every word. The exact posture Kalila had described. The exact posture Kalila herself had carried for 5 years. His jaw tightened. He stood up from the chair, then sat back down. No matter what you see, do not react immediately. He kept watching. He moved to the security camera area footage. His wife was in the frame, standing with the head of house security, a man named Park who had worked in the house for 6 years and who Kang Seo-jun had trusted without question. He turned up the audio on his laptop. His wife's voice came through. I hope you still have everything arranged the way it is supposed to be. Make sure he finds out nothing. Your pay doubles at the end of this month, same as last. And remember, if he finds out, I as his wife have nothing to lose. But you lose your job, your income, everything you have built here, which you will not find anywhere else at your age. Park nodded. One nod. Small. The nod of a man who has already decided and does not need to be asked again. Kang Seo-jun sat forward with both hands flat on the desk. He has not increased anyone's salary in months. He had seen the books. He knew the numbers. So the money Park was being paid extra was coming from somewhere else. From accounts he did not control. From money that was not his. He almost picked up the phone. No matter what you see, do not react immediately. He moved to the hallway camera. The one he had placed near the rear entrance and the garden corridor, which his wife never used, which had no reason to be used by anyone who was not staff going in or out for deliveries. The footage was empty for a while. Then his wife came into the frame, moving quickly, moving with the purposeful step of someone who did not want to be seen. A car arrived at the rear entrance. A man stepped out. He was wearing a dark coat and glasses, and Kang Seo-jun did not recognize him immediately, which almost never happened. He leaned closer to the screen. Then the man removed his glasses, and Kang Seo-jun's blood went cold. Lee Chul-han, his rival, his oldest enemy, the man who had cost him contracts and alliances and 2 people he had trusted, the man who had been coming for him, steadily, patiently, for 11 years. The man whose name he never said inside his own house because he had always believed that certain names were bad luck indoors. Lee Chul-han, walking through his rear entrance, walking to his wife, who smiled, who stepped forward, who put her arms around this man in the corridor of his own house and kissed him in a way that did not leave room for any other explanation. Kang Seo-jun's hands closed into fists on the desk. Every muscle in his body was doing something he had not given it permission to do. He stood up. He looked at the monitor. He picked it up. He put it back down. He punched the desk instead, a single hard blow, and the wood cracked straight down the middle from the impact. He went to the drawer, took out the thing he kept in the drawer, held it. No matter what you see, do not react immediately. A knock at the office door. He put the weapon back, closed the drawer, ran his hand through his hair once. Come in. His wife opened the door. She looked at him, then at the cracked desk, then at the glass from the monitor that was on the floor where he had not realized he had knocked it when he stood up. Her eyes moved across all of it. What happened? He looked at her. At this woman he had held 3 days ago while she cried. At this woman whose tears he had believed completely because he had given her every reason to trust him, and he had assumed, the way men like him sometimes make the mistake of assuming, that the people inside his house were as loyal to him as he was to them. A very bad memory. That's all. She looked at the room, at the destruction of it. You have broken everything. It's a bad day, he said. I'm sorry. Go to bed. I'll have it cleaned in the morning. She went out. He sat in the wreckage. Then he picked up his phone and called Kalila. He went to her that night. He sat across from her and told her everything he had seen. His wife and Park. His wife and Lee Chul-han. The rear entrance. The corridor. All of it. His voice was level the entire time, which was the most controlled thing she had ever seen a person do. She listened to all of it. When he finished, she looked at him. Did you watch all of the footage? She asked. I watched what was there. Watch all of it, she said. Go back tonight. Every second. From the beginning. He went home. He got a different laptop, a personal one that was not connected to any of the house systems. He started the footage from the very beginning. Everything he had already seen. Then past where he had stopped. The corridor camera. The same evening. After the embrace. His wife and Lee Chul-han standing at the rear entrance. Heads close together, voices low. The camera audio barely caught it at first. Then the angle shifted slightly, the way cameras sometimes do in the wind, and the voices came through clearly. Lee Chul-han's voice. 24 days from today. The compound works on a delay. By the time any symptoms present, there will be nothing to trace back. His wife, nodding once. Everyone in the house is already operating under the new rules. Park has made certain of it. He suspects nothing. He believes he controls the full picture. But the picture has already changed. Lee Chul-han. When it is finished, the split proceeds as agreed. His wife. The split is secondary to me. The result is what matters. Lee Chul-han. Smiling. When he is gone, everything he built becomes exactly what it was always meant to become. Ours. The camera continued. Second day of new footage. Lee Chul-han at a different location, visible through the rear camera at a brief distance, holding something small, speaking to someone off-frame. -1 day, 23 remaining. And then he is no more. Kang Seo-jun stopped the footage. He sat completely still for a long time. The kind of still that is not calm but is the other side of calm, the place you go when everything you are has to be held in a container that is suddenly much smaller than what it contains. Then he stood up and went to Kalila. He knocked on her door at 2 in the morning. She opened it without asking who it was, which told him she had been awake, which told him she had expected this. He came in. She poured water and set it on the table. He sat. He told her everything. The compound. The timeline. 23 days from yesterday. His wife's voice on the recording saying the result was what mattered. Kalila listened to every word. When he finished, Kalila looked at him. "I knew most of it," she said. "I knew most of it before yesterday." He was quiet. "If I had told you when I was still working there, you would not have believed me. If I had told you the first time you came here, you would have thought it was a dismissed employee making trouble. You needed to see it yourself. You needed it to be your eyes and your cameras and your own footage." He looked at this woman across the small table in the middle of the night. A woman who had been slapped in his kitchen, who had been tied to a chair in a room in his house, who had walked out with her apron on the counter. A woman who had known something this large and this dangerous and had not gone to anyone else with it, had not sold it, had not used it for anything except giving him the tools to see it for himself. "I need to end this. Tonight. I have a location from the footage, a place they use. I need you there." Kalila looked at him. "No, I resigned. I left that house because I did not want to be part of whatever this is. I gave you what I knew how to give you. That is all I agreed to." "I know that," he said. "And I am not asking you as an employee. I am asking you as the only person in my life right now who has been completely honest with me. Without any reason to be. Without being asked. Just honest." She looked at him. "I will not put anything on you that you cannot carry. You will not be in front. You will not be at risk. But I need you there. Because you are the reason this is being done correctly. You are the reason I still have 23 days instead of 0. She was quiet for a long moment. At this man sitting across from her in the middle of the night in her small room, who had come to her first as an employer and who was sitting here now as something she did not quite have the word for yet. "One condition," she said loudly. "Name it. If at any point I feel unsafe, we leave. Immediately. No argument, no delay. No waiting to see how it develops. Agreed. No hesitation at all." She stood up. "Then we need to move now. You have been showing signs. You broke things in your office. Your wife has eyes in that house. People who watch for signs have noticed." He stood. They left. They did not take a car. They took 2 motorbikes, helmets fully on, moving through the city without a trail. Nobody watching the house would see a convoy leaving. Nobody tracking his phone would see a destination. They moved like 2 ordinary people going somewhere ordinary in the middle of the night, and they rode in silence the whole way. They arrived first. He had 12 men already in position, placed over the last 4 hours since he had called the number he called when things needed to be handled without any paper behind them. He had not told them why. He had told them where, and they had gone because that was the arrangement. He and Kalila parked exactly where the footage showed Lee Chulhan always parked. The one spot at the rear of the location that was in a blind angle from the entrance cameras. The one spot he would never think to check because it was his spot, which meant, in his mind, nobody else would be there. They waited. It did not take long. Car arrived. 2 cars, actually, which meant the meeting was larger than the footage had suggested. Doors opening. Voices low. His wife stepped out of the second car, wearing a coat that was too light for the night air, which meant she had left quickly, which meant she had been called somewhere she had not expected to go and had not had time to prepare properly. Lee Chulhan stepped out of the first car. His glasses were on. He was talking to someone on a phone and not paying attention to anything around him. They walked toward the entrance side by side. Then Kalila stepped forward. She removed her helmet. His wife saw her first. Her face went through everything in less than a second. Recognition. Confusion. The specific, disorienting mathematics of how this woman was standing here, in this place, at this hour, wearing a motorcycle helmet at her side with an expression on her face that was completely calm. She took 1 step forward. Then she saw what was behind Kalila. Kang Seo-jun. Helmet removed. Standing completely still. And behind him, 12 men already moving into position, already surrounding both cars, already holding what needed to be held, already making it very clear that the only exits from this moment were the ones he decided to offer. 3 of them moved to Lee Chulhan before he finished his phone call. He looked up from the phone and understood the situation in about 1 second, which was faster than most people, but 1 second too late. 2 moved to his wife. And then Kalila stepped directly in front of Miss Yoon. She looked at her. For exactly one moment. The moment that had been building since the first week in that kitchen, since the first time, since every time after that, since the kitchen this morning, since the chair in the locked room, since all of it. Then she delivered what the kitchen had started. One slap. Clean. Firm. 5 years of everything behind it and nothing extra, nothing performed, just the plain fact of it landing exactly where it was meant to land. Miss Yoon went down. 2 men held her where she was. Kang Seo-jun walked forward. He stood in front of them, both of them on their knees on the ground, his wife with her hand against her face. Lee Chul-han with 3 men at his back and the expression of a man running calculations that are not going to add up. He looked at his wife first. He looked at her for a long time, at the woman he had married, at the woman he had held 3 days ago while she cried, at the woman whose tears had been completely real, which was the thing about it that sat with him the heaviest, because it meant she was capable of both things at the same time, of crying against his chest and meaning it, and of standing in his corridor and kissing another man and meaning that too. Then he looked at Lee Chul-han. He crouched down until they were eye level. "You have been planning this for long enough that you got comfortable," he said. His voice was level and quiet and completely cold. "Comfortable enough to do it inside my house, using my cameras, with my security man, with my wife." He looked at them both. "You thought you controlled what I could see. You thought you were 23 days ahead. You thought the woman you tied to a chair and locked in a room had walked out of my house and become irrelevant." He stood up. "Every single thing you thought was exactly what I needed you to think." He turned slightly and looked at the men positioned around the location. "These men you are looking at tonight are people you have never seen before. Because you thought you knew my full operation. Because you believed you had eyes inside everything I controlled. You did not know about this because I did not bring this inside the house. Ever. And that is why you are on your knees right now and I am standing." He looked at his rival. "You have been coming for me for 11 years. And every time I have been one step ahead. Not because I am lucky. Because I do not stop watching." He looked at his wife. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I trusted you with everything. My house. My name. My daily routine. My life literally as it turns out. And you sat beside me and watched me sleep and knew what you had put in motion." His voice did not break. It stayed exactly where it was. 24 days. That was the plan. 24 days and I would simply not be here anymore. And everything I built for 19 years would be split between you. He stepped back. "I will not finish this tonight. That would be too fast. Too simple. For what has been done here, for what was planned, for the scale of it, you will carry the weight of it every day. The legal process for something like this takes time. It is thorough. It is very public. That is what you are going to face." He turned, walked to where Kalila was standing. He stopped beside her, looked at her. "I cannot fully thank you for what you did, but I am trying." She looked at him. "You already did," she said simply. "When you listened." He nodded once. They walked out together, side by side, into the night air, away from the figures on the ground behind them, away from all of it. They did not look back.